Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name's Katie, I'm a designer and illustrator, and today I'm going to be showing you my sketchbook tour. You may remember that at the start of the year I did some videos where I recorded filling this up and finishing it, and since then I've kind of procrastinated this video just because I definitely felt a lot of imposter syndrome with this. There's a lot of artists on YouTube who have beautiful sketchbooks and fill them up really quickly, and I'm definitely not one of them. I started this in 2018 and I've only just finished it this year, and a lot of the work in here is just scribbles or sketches and the pages aren't full. There's a lot of finished artwork in here and a lot of thumbnail sketches and notes. So this sketchbook tour won't be full of beautiful artwork and finished sketches. This really is just a place where I put in my thoughts and scribbles and grab when I've got an idea. I work a lot on scrap bits of paper, and I did start putting those in and taping them in with washi, which definitely helped fill this up a lot quicker because generally I'll just grab a scrap of paper rather than get my sketchbook. So although there's some pieces in here that I'm proud of, I definitely feel like compared to other artists I'm certainly not as prolific as I'd like to be in terms of creating art. As artists, I know we are very self-critical and we often fall into that self-comparison trap, and I definitely have when I looked back through the sketchbook. But I hope you enjoy it anyway. It's always nice to... I always say that sketchbooks are good for development anyway, and it is nice for me to be able to look back and see where I was in 2018 and how my skills have developed, or even just the experiments that I've done along the way. So I hope you enjoy watching. I'm going to put the camera overhead and I'll talk you through it. This sketchbook is a Leuchturm 1917 sketchbook in A5, and it's perfect bound, so I don't like the spiral bound ones or anything that gets in my way, and this does close nice and flat. So it also has the little ribbons, which I don't use, and elastic closure, which is quite handy. Although I didn't fill this with any mixed media or anything, so it's not bulging out. So not necessary, but good to have. The first thing I did in here was this, which was just done in gouache, and this was gouache as well. I really like this one. I like how it came out, and a different colour palette than I usually used, and I like the texture on there as well. Then this was in gouache and this was coloured pencil. This is, like I mentioned, where I do things on scrap bits of paper and just add it in, because a lot of the times if I get an idea I'll just grab a scrap bit of paper rather than reaching for my sketchbook. And these were the first sketches I did for the cat stickers, which are in my Etsy shop. This is just a random page of some pencil sketches of some wildflowers, a little badger with a rucksack on. And this was for, I remember doing this spread because it was just before my little niece was born, and she was born in April 2018, so it was around about that time, and I remember making her this cushion and embroidering on her name, and then trying out different lettering because I created a new baby card for my Etsy shop. So this whole sketchbook was when I was creating new products for my Etsy shop each month, so a lot of the original sketches did go into this sketchbook. So it's just playing around with the Pentel Touch sign pen just for this lettering, and playing around with mixed media in the sketchbook. It was okay for the thicker gouache, but not so good on the thinner, and you can see from the other side a lot of the paint did come through, which was a shame. So as you can see, I think this was like a watery, it might have even been a brush pen, and that did come through onto the other side. This was done in ink, and this was from a trip to Amsterdam. And again, I didn't use the other side of that because it did come through. This sketchbook's mostly filled with coloured pencils and thicker gouache rather than the watercolour studies or ink studies because the paper didn't hold up. So again, this was inspired by a trip to Amsterdam. And this, I really like this page. This came out really well. But this was just a recipe and going through the steps to make the little cupcakes. And again, that was just done in coloured pencil. I remember I just got the Prismacolor pencils, which I use all the time, and so that was, a lot of this is done with those. Again, another one kind of inspired by Amsterdam and playing around. I was going to do some shrink plastic charms and things, and I did test that one out from home, so I've still got that floating around somewhere. But again, just playing around with mixed media and doing it a lot thicker so it doesn't come through the other side. It's really random. I didn't really fill the pages or anything. Covered that up because it's rubbish. And this was for a doll which I originally planned on making my niece, but actually I only did that last year, so it's taken me that long to actually get around to it. So these are gouache studies again, and the next few pages I actually really like. I remember just going on Pinterest and finding something random, or just going through my homepage because I didn't know what to paint, and just finding the first thing that took my eye. This is probably one of my favourite pages in the sketchbook, just because of the texture and the colour. I think it's really vibrant, and I love the style that's come about here, and I remember always trying to recreate that and not quite managing, but yeah, this one I really like, and the texture on the bricks and things. This one not so much, I think that was a bit of a fail. This one I liked. This was when I was experimenting with coloured pencil over the paint, so you can see I've tried to go darker with the pencil there and the shadows, and I do quite like that one. This one is a bit pale for me. I was again trying to get that texture back from that yellow house, but didn't quite work out. This one, I think I had loads of orange paint left over from a mixed media spread in my art journal, and so I just filled it up. And I like the turquoise against the orange actually. I don't usually think about the next page when I'm working on it, but I like the way the peaches sit with that spread. Again, just a pattern done in gouache and on scrap pieces of paper, which is just stuck in there. This was done in purely coloured pencil. And now this is what I mostly use my sketchbook for, just for quick sketches like this. Again in scrap paper and just stuck in on top. Usually I use washi tape so I can see what's under it, but obviously I was trying to hide something under there. Some typography tests and some little people. This is usually what I use my sketchbook for, which is these thumbnail sketches and notes and things like that. This was done in gouache, so I did all the elements separately, and I remember putting that all together into a final piece on Photoshop. This was unfinished, and I really like this colour palette, so I thought I would just stick that in. I used tear off palettes, so it's just like a thin tracing paper, and that's quite nice to include. I might do that going forward. Again, another quick scrap thing that I've just stuck in there that was done in gouache. Thumbnail sketch, some extra little bits, so I really didn't even fill this sketchbook that much, considering it's taken me that long to finish. The pages aren't that full, but this was just how I used my sketchbook at that time. Here again is the test for the lettering, which I then embroidered onto a cushion. It's usually just random bits of type. If I see something on Pinterest or if I get an idea, sometimes I'll just grab my sketchbook and add it in, which is why it's such a mismatch of things, because I'll just add in things when I see it, and that's why there's a lot of blank space on the spreads. I think this was done in graphite. Again, it's come over to the next page, so I should have sealed it, but it doesn't matter so much in here. Some more quick line work. This was again when I didn't know what to draw, so I just go on Pinterest and then see what I like the look of and just draw it in here. Again, some more ideas for my Etsy shop and some thumbnails. I think this is coming into 2019 now. Again, just random sketches. This must have been end of 2019 because we were planning our trip to Japan, which was in 2020, so I remember drawing that and this. I was going to do an Instagram post saying that we were going and if there were any tips. This was just a colour wash, which again doesn't hold very well in the sketchbook. It's kind of taken off the paper a little bit, but I do really like this line drawing on top of the colour. I think that works really nicely. And again, this was for an Instagram post, just drawing the elements in the sketchbook and then taking all the elements onto Photoshop and piecing them together in there. Just some more random sketches. I do like this spread. I think this works quite nicely. This was mixed media, so I've got some biro on top of some watered down gouache, and this was gouache as well with some markers and coloured pencils. This was really experimental for me and I actually really like the end result. This I did in 2020. This was when I was supposed to be going to Sardinia with Mitch, but obviously the pandemic happened, so that didn't happen. So this was just going on Google Maps and finding a place in Sardinia and painting it on there, and I really love this. This is kind of what I want my whole sketchbook to be, like full of things like this and proper paintings. This was again just going on Google Maps and heading somewhere, so this was Bruges, and just doing a drawing of what I saw. This was when I was furloughed, so I had a lot more time to work in here. Again, some random sketches. This was a quick sketch I did, which then turned into a card for my sister and brother-in-law for their wedding anniversary. And again, popping in a bit of the colour palette. This was a study, I actually put the date here, I really should do that a bit more so I can see the timeline, but this was a study of some Alstroemeria. This was a study of some flowers. This was a study of some flowers which Mitch bought me. And again, just random bits, random notes. A lot of it is just scribbles and things which I suddenly want to draw. So I remember seeing a cat sleeping outside and just grabbing my sketchbook to draw it. This became this image, so this was just the original sketch. Again, took it in, I think I took a photo of it on my iPad and then went into Procreate and drew over it. I quite like that I've got both of these in here, so this was the original sketch and then the painting. I think I used my light box and put this over it and taped them in, but it's quite nice to see them side by side. And back here, this was the original sketch, so the first thumbnail I did, which turned into that, which turned into that. These are elements which turned into this, which was for a collaboration with Lollipop Box Club. And this is the very first sketch I did for the dog image, which actually went viral last September. I changed the layout a little bit, but this was just done in biro on a scrap bit of paper, an old to-do list, and just scribbled on the back and then took that into Procreate and created the image that is still quite popular on Instagram. I remember this was done with pen and ink, so a proper pen nib. This I did actually on location, so we went to Wiltshire last August 2020. We went on a walk up lots of hills to go see the Chesil horse, and this was the view on the top of the hill. There was a monument there, Lansdowne, I think it's the Lansdowne monument, and it was really nice to actually create something outside. So I just used my Caran d'Ache Neocolor pastels and some watercolours because that was all I had, but it actually worked quite well in the end. Some studies of some pigeons. This is a lot brighter than I would normally do, and I was aware I was kind of coming to the end of the sketchbook, so I definitely did just try and have a bit more fun. I do have a video for the process of both of these, and again scrap paper, so I just stuck them in. This is what I studied to create this, so that's where that came from, and just some lettering underneath. This was a Still Life, Still Here project on Instagram. I think that's the only one I did, and that's just done in Pastels, I just wanted to see, I always do pastels over gouache, so I wanted to see how it looked on its own. Some typography tests for a Christmas card. I'm just playing around with watercolour. I remember just getting an idea for this in my head and just putting it in here. So this was the original, and then in a minute I've got what this actually turned into, so the final piece. This is when I filmed this for YouTube, so I've got the 2 videos, which is finishing my sketchbook, so you can see these as speed paints on my channel. I'll pop that up in the cards. I quite like these flamingos. I think they turned out really nicely, they would make a really nice repeating pattern. This was the sketch I did for my 500 orders picture, which I put on Instagram. Lots of sketches and thumbnails and notes. A lot of unfinished pieces in here as well. Oh, here's the final thing. So it didn't actually turn out as I imagined in my head, but I do quite like it and it fitted nicely in here, so I just popped that in. And again, I like this one. This was Neocolor pastels and colouring pencils. Again, really like the palette, so pop that in. This was another spread which I did on the Finish My Sketchbook videos with the ink and coloured pencil and gouache. I really like this one. This was done in gouache again. And a floral study. This was a draw this in your style for a piece by Jessica Elena, which I haven't finished yet, but again I was just playing around with colours and trying out layout. Another thumbnail sketch for a piece which I finished up in Procreate and put on my Instagram. And that's it. That's the final spread. I hope you enjoyed watching that. I wish I was a person who could fill a sketchbook really quickly. But I'm just not. I just prefer to work on scraps, and generally if I do thumbnails I'll do them in here and then I'll go on to the final piece. I do have an A4 sketchbook which I've started working on back in September, and I do have a new A5 sketchbook which I'm going to start working in as well. So we'll see how I go. Hopefully it won't take me quite as long to fill that one, but we'll see. And I definitely think it's a lesson here to not put any rules or timelines on your sketches or your sketchbooks. Just take it as you go. All artists are different, and I know that I need to be a bit more kinder towards myself and my art, and I'll create as and when I feel like it. So there's absolutely no pressure. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, please do give me a thumbs up and add a comment down below. And if you're not subscribed already, then please do consider it. I post a new video every Sunday, and it's usually art related or painting or scrapbooking or something creative. Thank you so much for your love on my last video as well about going freelance, and hopefully there'll be a lot more content coming on this channel soon. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely week. See you later.